Welcome to this channel. My name is Mtawe Dan Bosco and we now dive into chapter 2. Chapter 2. The rich do not work for money. At one point, Kiyosaki posed a question to his father about how to get rich, and the father fired back at him, asking why he wanted to be rich. On answering, Kiyosaki narrated to his father how he saw one of his friend's mother, Jim, driving a Cadillac heading to the beach house for a weekend. Jim went along with 3 of his friends but never invited Kiyosaki and his friend Mike on grounds that they were poor kids. The father was disappointed by the act, but never made any response to Kiyosaki other than shaking his head and reading a newspaper. In 1956, at the age of 9, Kiyosaki got a chance and attended a school where the kids of the rich studied from. His father eventually put the paper down, responding to him that if he wanted to be rich, he would have to make money. He would learn how to make money. The next day, Kiyosaki shared his father's message with the poor friend of his, Mike, with whom he lived in the school where the rich took their kids. They lived with the kids of the rich, having everything they needed in life. For Kiyosaki and Mike, their parents provided them with only basics such as food, shelter, and clothes. Within a few days, Kiyosaki had convinced Mike to be his partner in business, since Robert, his father, had always told him that if he wanted anything, he had to work for it. The two boys spent the entire Saturday morning brainstorming about ideas of how to make money. The act of not inviting them to the beach was an inspiration for them to find ways of how to make money. They eventually came up with the business idea of a boat of lighting, which pushed them to go to the neighborhoods asking for empty toothpaste tubes. Some neighbors consented to their cry right away, whereas others proved inquisitive. The two boys now found a place near a washing machine of Kiyosaki's mother, where they had to collect their materials for use. The mom was not happy with the venue chosen, and the boys keeping the business as a secret. She wanted them to reveal the secret and make the use of a stockpile as soon as possible because it was in the place she was using. One day, Kiyosaki's father decided to come and check on the two boys' progress. He and his friend found the boys engaged into work of pouring molten lead through a small hole in a top plaster of Paris tube and asked them what they were doing. Kiyosaki responded that they were doing what the dad had told them to do in order to be rich. The dad smiled and shook his head as his friend burst into laughter. The two boys standing along with fire and a box of spent toothpaste tubes were also smiling. The dad invited them to sit with him on the front step of the house, where he strongly explained to them the meaning of counterfeiting. In a shaking voice, Mike wondered whether what they were doing was illegal. The father openly responded that the business was illegal. He, however, urged them to keep going and appreciated their initiative. After a moment of silence in disappointment, Kiyosaki asked his father why himself wasn't rich. Remember, he was talking to his real father, the educated but poor father. The father's response was that for him, he was a school teacher who doesn't think of being rich and had no knowledge of making money. He advised them to consult Mike's father, who knew about making money. Remember, Mike was the son of Kiyosaki's rich dad, the second dad of Robert Kiyosaki, who was a rich man. The two boys, energized, rose again and started cleaning up the mess resulting from their new de facto first business while setting out plans to meet and talk to Mike's dad. Mike's dad owned warehouses, a construction company, a chain of stores plus 3 restaurants. The two boys set a day to meet him to teach them about making money. They finally met him after a long struggle. Seated on the chair, Mikey's father arrived asking them whether they were ready for the lesson. He granted to teach them, but on condition that they had to work for him. He then quickly told them to abide by his model of teaching or leave it as soon as possible. The boys agreed and Mikey's dad invited Mrs. Martin to come by and ride them to his super raid to start working, promising to pay each of them 10 cents an hour. The next day, Mike and Robert started working for a candy lady called Mrs. Martin. They were taking candy goods off the shelves, brushing the dust off them, and restaking them after. It was such a hectic work for the two boys, and the work was always available due to the structure of the stores and absence of conditioning, which called for leaving the doors of stores wide open, giving away for dust to settle in stores, which the boys had always to clean. These boys pushed their work for 3 consecutive weeks, working for 3 hours a day and earning 10 cents an hour. The next week, Robert thought of quitting the job over little pay. His poor dad also read this as violation of labor laws and encouraged his son to demand for a pay rise of at least 25 cents. His rich dad intervened and called him in his office, where he made him to wait for quite long. They finally met, but Robert arrogantly quarreled before the rich dad, accusing him of greediness and dishonesty. Robert blamed the rich dad for not teaching him as he promised. He grounded his complaint on rich daddy's failure to speak to him as the only way he would ensure teaching the boy. Rich dad stressed that his way of teaching was not through talking to Robert, but already being taught through practical work. Rich dad advised him to learn from life lessons, which pushes one around to be able to see. Rich dad claimed that he was giving Robert a taste of life. The rich dad praised the two boys for being the first to ask him to teach them about making money. Upon receiving their request of teaching them how to make money, he designed the course close to real life, which pushed the boys around. Paying them 10 cents was one of the tests he gave. Exchange continued between the two, with Robert blaming Rich Dad for paying him less and therefore was the problem. Rich Dad was also pointing at Robert as being the problem due to his impatience. Robert finally had to calm down, asking Rich Dad how he could solve the problem at stake. Rich Dad praised Robert for reacting over low pay, associating it with a burning desire to learn. Rich Dad pointed out that most of the people tend to play it safe when it comes to money, and in this sense end up being directed by fear but not passion. He directed a message to those who claim he pays them less and branding him exploitative, saying that it is rather their fear that creates the problem but not him. Rich Dad further explained that getting more money is not the solution to the problems, but rather learning how money works for you. He told Robert that school teaches people working for money but not money working for them. Rich Dad told Robert that it's fear that keeps people on job. They fear to fail to pay bills, being fired, fear of starting over, not having enough money, and end up slaves to money. Then Robert finally settled for a 10 cents pay with hope that he would learn something his friends in schools do not learn. Rich Dad revealed to him that what he went through waiting to see him in line is what actually most people face in their lifetime if they choose to work for money or get hired. Rich Dad also noted that it is only the poor and middle class that pay taxes since they work for money. The dad reminded Robert that those who go to school to learn how to work for money encounter money problems that force them to work until death. He asked Robert whether he was still interested in learning how to have money work for him, which Robert responded to positively. Robert was then ordered to go back and work on ground that he could not be paid any single coin. Rich Dad claimed that Robert had agreed not to work for money, but rather to learn. Robert was hesitant to agree to Rich Dad's proposal, insisting that he must be paid something. Rich Dad told Robert to use his head wisely, and if he had not, he would be like the two women and an old man who were seated in his living room and that they were working for money and hoping he never fired them. Here, he wanted to show him that those who work for money are actually insecure and live on mercy of their employer. He also warned that Robert would be like his father, who earns much money but has debts up to his neck and wrongly thinks that getting more money would solve money problems. Rich Dad tapped on Robert's head after asking him what he would do and told him to use it wisely, and if he did so, he would get rich. Robert continued to ask for a pay rise, where Rich Dad chased him out of his office and ordered him to continue working for no pay. At this moment, he learned that the rich do not work for money. Robert finally accepted to work for free, but kept it a secret from his poor dad. Him and Mike started off and worked for 3 weeks without pay, 3 hours a day. They noted that the job increasingly became easier. They also said that the only things they missed were baseball games and being unable to buy comic books. Rich Dad came by in the 3rd week and invited the two boys to go for a walk after handing each of them a bar of ice cream. The conversation as they were moving started. Rich Dad asked them how everything was going, and they agreed it was okay. Asked whether they had learned something so far, the two boys responded in disdain by shrugging their shoulders. The rich dad warned them over praying about a very crucial life lesson where if not learned would make them go through money problems all through their lives. He then tricked the boys about paying them 25 cents an hour, increased it to $1 and to $2 an hour, which moved all the boys to take up the offer but stayed silent. Rich Dad continued to trick them by raising the offer to $5 per hour, but again hesitated to take it up. He then revealed to them how some people have a price facilitated by fear and greed, where the fear of not having money drives them work hard, and then greed sets in such that when they get money, they want everything money can buy, and the pattern goes on. Rich Dad branded such a pattern a rat race, where they get up, go to work, pay bills, get up, go to work and pay bills, and here they are driven by fear and greed. And once they have more money, they just continue the cycle by also increasing their spending. He stressed that such a pattern is an order of the day in many lives, and actually money controls the lives of many people. He told them that he wanted them to dodge that trap, for even being rich does not solve the problem. He also said that desire for joy or something better also explains why people work for money. For Rich Dad, desire generated by money is temporary. He promised to teach them how to escape that trap by using fear and desire in their favor rather than against them. He told them that if they happened to get rich without the knowledge to handle fear and desire, they would only be high-paid slaves. Asked how he could help them avoid this trap, Rich Dad first of all pointed out that it is fear and ignorance that facilitates financial struggles or poverty, but not the economy, government, or the rich. It is actually self-inflicted fear. He noted that fear is actually increased by ignorance. Rich Dad made it clear that the rich make money but do not work for it. He also told the boys that money is illusional. Rich Dad dismissed the boys by encouraging them to forget about wanting a paycheck, work for free, and have their brains start to think. He told them that it would be through this that they would be able to see opportunities that others do not see. Robert and Mike soon realized an opportunity in comic books, which were freely distributed, and found an empty room, piled them there, and formed a library, which made them money by allowing in readers of such books at a cost whenever they came, though the business was closed later due to staff issues. What are the key takeaways from chapter 2? The rich do not work for money, but money works for them. We must learn to use our brains and the power of imagination to see opportunities that others do not see that can get us money. We can only control our finances by being our own bosses, not employees of anyone. We must learn to make money even when we are not physically present at our premises. Remember, we are committed to summarizing the best financial literacy books for you, citing out the key lessons from them for you again. Simply subscribe.